Thanks so much, Kate. And I would just like to take this opportunity to congratulate the Blue Mountains World Heritage Institute for putting together such a wonderful program of inspiring speakers, and of course, launching your Eco Arts Recovery website, an online exhibition yesterday. It looks absolutely fantastic. So yeah, congratulations to all of the artists and everyone involved. What a big job. Okay, I'm just going to share my screen with you. Great. Can you all see that okay? Lovely. Okay. So I'm going to talk today to you about how environmental sustainability and the arts are interconnected and how artistic and cultural practices can contribute to a more sustainable future. And I'm going to show you some examples from the Culture Center program so that you can see what that looks like in practice. And it's really lovely doing this after Liz's talk. I think the initiatives like the Planetary Health initiative from Council and also, of course, the Eco Arts Recovery Project are just some really brilliant examples of ways that we can work collectively together to achieve a better future. Okay. Okay. So we're finding ourselves in unprecedented times where climate change, war, humanitarian crises, and a global pandemic are immediate threats to our planet and our society. In 2015, the UN defined the most pressing global challenges that need to be addressed by 2030. And just to put that in perspective, that is now less than 9 years away. Based on these global challenges, the UN developed the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, which were adopted by all UN member states in the now famous Paris Agreement. And you can see those 17 goals on the screen. These goals provide a global framework for action as governments and communities across the world work towards more sustainable ways of living by implementing these principles into decision-making at all levels. And Council is also using those sustainable development goals, in their Planetary Health initiative. Okay. So how do the UN sustainability goals apply to the arts? And what contributions are creatives, artists, and arts organizations making to sustainable development? How do we create positive change and environmental awareness and bring communities together? So I would like to give you some examples in the next couple of slides, how the arts can play a fundamental role in contributing to the UN 2030 Sustainable Development Goals and create positive change by highlighting and increasing awareness about environmental issues and by bringing communities together to develop creative ideas for a better future. So what you see there are just a few ways that the arts has been recognized and contributes to the Sustainable Development Outcome Goals by creating civic engagement, environmental and social issues, for example, by highlighting and promoting the value of traditional knowledge to sustainable practices and solutions, by addressing current environmental and social issues through creative expressions and unique perspectives, and by collaboration with community groups to address issues that are relevant to them and their region. So how does that look in practice? Creating civic engagement with environmental and social issues. So galleries, museums, and cultural centers, for example, play a significant role in engaging audiences with sustainability issues by creating a platform for learning, debate, and discussion. By presenting exhibitions and delivering workshops and education programs, they can involve people and communities directly with issues that are relevant to them. So in the example that you see here, that is, for example, young people, what you can see on the slide is the Regenerate project, which was originally developed by Orange Regional Gallery and then adapted for the Blue Mountains Culture Center after the 1920 bushfires. Regenerate was a communal creative exploration of how Australian bushland responds to fire and engaged over 2,100 school children by addressing the devastating experience of the bushfires, but also by teaching participants about the resilience of the bush and the regenerative properties of eucalypt species that thrive after fire. So what you can see there are hundreds and hundreds of leaves, eucalypt leaves, that were painted and written on by school children. Sorry, I'm working across 3 screens here today, so just bear with me. Okay. So, highlighting and promoting the value of traditional knowledge to sustainable practices and solutions. For millennia, First Nations people in Australia and across the world have looked after country in sustainable ways. They've cared for waterways, they've managed country through cultural burning, and they've cared for animals and their ecosystems. As artists, arts workers, and arts organizations, we need to ensure that we foster respect and promote the importance of the contributions by First Nations artistic and cultural practitioners to creating a more sustainable world. And of course, in the Blue Mountains, as you know, Aboriginal communities have a strong commitment to caring for country. And of course, on the large image on the right there, you can see the wonderful David King, who spoke earlier. And that's David at the Threatened Species Day, which we hosted at the Culture Centre in 2018. And this day combined talks, an exhibition and community activities that informed about and addressed threatened species issues. And David is standing in front of a habitat drawing by Freedom Wilson. I think Freedom is also here today. And Freedom, you have to correct me because I always pronounce it wrong, but I think is the endangered Daris aquarius, or the double-tailed buttercup orchid. So you can see this beautiful drawing there that shows the ecosystem of that particular orchid. And David has been part of many of our projects here at the Cultural Centre. He's an incredible source of knowledge and inspiration. So thank you, David, for always being so generous with your time and joining us for our programs and sharing your knowledge with us. The small image on the left shows a photographic installation and a canoe, which we exhibited at the end of last year for our inaugural Planetary Health exhibition. And this project was led by Gundungurra elder Auntie Sharon Holtz, who works with a range of community groups to look after country and to teach the importance of our traditional cultural values. The images that you see were from 2013, when Auntie Sharon and archaeologist Michael Jackson led a multi-day hike following Gundungurra ancestral pathways through the southern parts of the Blue Mountains. And this walk was undertaken to celebrate the achievements of all people who've crossed the mountains for a time and to draw attention to the uniqueness and richness of Aboriginal occupation in the area. And then on the small image at the bottom left, you can see Chris Tobin, Darug man, cultural educator and an artist who has strong involvement with the community in the Blue Mountains. And through art and storytelling, Chris connects Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people and works towards enhancing understanding and respect for the rich and beautiful culture of the Darug people. Again, so for the same exhibition, Chris activated the public spaces of the Cultural Centre through collaborative artworks made from Boca. All right. And then, you know, one of the probably more recognised ways that art and artistic expressions contribute towards environmental and social goals is, you know, by highlighting that through creative artworks and expressions. So historically, arts and cultural practices have been instrumental in spawning societal transformation by addressing and confronting humanity's greatest challenges. Social injustice, economic imbalances, and environmental concerns are addressed by renowned artists around the world, such as Ai Weiwei, Olaf Eliasson, and of course in Australia, Janet Lawrence. And whilst we do have all of the scientific reports and media providing us with like a wealth of information about environmental challenges, it really does not suffice to achieve a collective shift in consciousness and to drive personal change or behavioral changes. So the arts have this inherent ability to connect and communicate with its audience on an emotional level. Artistic expressions and practices have a strong impact on the human consciousness, but in creating these connections, and, you know, connecting us with issues at hand and then facilitating a shift in thinking. And artists are also not beholden to the current political narrative, so they can ask the uncomfortable questions. You can see two artworks here that we have exhibited at the Cultural Centre in recent years. On the left, you have Janet Lawrence's work, The Memory of Nature. And this work addresses the physiology of nature, of natural environments, and asks questions around sustainability. And her work emphasizes states of transformation as well as cycles of life and death. So she has like organic matter there, and scientific instruments and references like museum models of display. So basically, placing items into a museum display that may have existed before, but now you can only see it behind glass. And then on the right-hand side, you can see a work by Nicole Welch titled Wilderness Land. And that work reflects on the inherent loss and uncertainty that we face for our natural environment. In this particular image, Nicole stands naked on the edge of a plateau overlooking the Grose Valley, facing an approaching storm, and she is wrapped in a Victorian lace shawl, representing, the loss and mourning for our natural environment. Okay, and last but not least, collaboration with community groups to address issues relevant to their region and to find sustainable solutions. So there's so many unique ways for artists and arts organizations to collaborate with our communities, and we can do that by bringing different types of knowledge and professions and areas of expertise together. So in early 2020, after the horrific bushfires, the Culture Centre invited the local community to send images of their experiences from their time, and that resulted in over 130 community members contributing a photograph for their exhibition. And you can see that on the left-hand side there, where we printed about 50 of those images, and then we had the remainder on as a digital slideshow. And so this show was really beautiful because it didn't just showcase the traumatic events of the fires, but also reflected on the resilience of the community and the resilience of the landscape. Then in the center image, you can see a really beautiful collaboration that we did with the Blue Mountains Beekeepers Club. And we installed a number of beehives on the Culture Centre's rooftop garden. And then the beekeeper group ran regular workshops here at the Culture Centre and taught visitors about the importance of bees and what they mean for us, our community, our parks and bushland management practices, and of course, pollinator conservation and resilience. And sorry, Paul, I think you are here today. I just had to put this image up of our wonderful director, Paul Brinkman, in a beekeeper's hat. He was so excited. So that was when we put the bees into the garden there, and Paul was driving that initiative for the Culture Centre. And then we also launched our edible rooftop garden, which is run by a dedicated group of knowledgeable volunteers. And the herbs and the veggies produced by our garden are then used in our cafe menu. So it's basically straight from the garden to your plate. And that does not only reduce the need to buy and transport produce, but it also decreases packaging and waste production by our cafe operations. And yeah, that was my little presentation. I hope that has given you some examples of how, arts and eco-sustainability are very much linked, and how we can help to foster understanding and embed eco-sustainable principles, in our operations.